We all know and love SpongeBob SquarePants' debut episode, Help Wanted, but do you remember its second episode, Reef Blower? It's one of the classics from early season 1. In it, SpongeBob tries to move a shell off of his lawn with a reef blower. Pretty short and sweet episode. What you may not know is this episode confused a lot of viewers and almost led to them not giving the show a chance, because the episode had zero dialogue. There are sounds and the characters make noises, but not one character says a single intelligible word. Let's recap. Squidward walks out of his house and admires the scenery when all of a sudden he sees a shell on his lawn. He kicks the shell onto SpongeBob's also clean yard to keep his own clean. But SpongeBob is also very protective of his lawn and gets out a reef blower from his garage to get rid of it. The noise of the machinery disturbing Squidward's beauty sleep. SpongeBob, struggling to blow away the shell, wreaks havoc, blowing it so hard sand comes out and lands on Squidward. SpongeBob comes to Squidward and blows off the sand that landed on him. Seeing that there is a huge pile of sand on his yard now, he sets the blower to reverse, sucking up the sand pile, but the reef blower starts to break apart and throws out sand. SpongeBob opens up the zipper behind the reef blower and puts the excess sand that was thrown out in there. He tries to start it again, but it does not work. This prompts him to pull the handle of the reef blower very far. Once he feels he is far enough, he lets go and quickly zips through the distance he went back onto the blower. SpongeBob starts sucking up the entire ocean, causing Squidward to almost suffocate to death, but the reef blower explodes due to overcapacity and shoots all the water sucked up back out again. And while SpongeBob is happy that his lawn is clean, Squidward's lawn is now filled with sand. The shell lands on Squidward's nose back into his yard. And that was SpongeBob's one and only silent episode with zero dialogue. For some people, Reef Blower was introduced as the first episode of SpongeBob, even though for many of us it was Help Wanted. So some people assumed all SpongeBob episodes were going to be like that with the zero dialogue and extremely short. Could you imagine Reef Blower being your first introduction to SpongeBob? I still think it's a genius episode, but Help wanted to introduce you to the world Bikini Bottom, specifically showing how SpongeBob was able to get his job as a fry cook at the Krusty Krab.
And Turbo Drive!
Working for his boss, Mr. Krabs, and working with his neighbor, co-worker and overall nemesis, Squidward. Patrick, SpongeBob's best friend, is also in this first story, and while the episode introduced the audience to these characters, it also introduced Nickelodeon as well. Help Wanted was the pilot produced to let Nickelodeon decide whether it wanted to make a whole series starring these characters, and was produced in 1997, while the rest of the episodes of Season 1 were produced in 1998 and 1999. That, though, left the first episode in a different format than most episodes, as the pilot was less than 8 minutes long, leaving the show a few minutes shy when adding in the first regular 11-minute segment, Tea at the Tree Dome. Enter Reef Blowers, the story that clocked in 9 seconds shy of 3 minutes, SpongeBob's shortest episode that features a reef blower, a bikini bottom variation on our typical leaf blowers, to clean his front yard, but inadvertently causing all sorts of problems for Squidward. There is a great moment where SpongeBob says "you," but it is presented only as a caption on the screen and not audible dialogue. I guess I do get that if that was the first episode of this new cartoon you saw instead of Help Wanted, I see why you would be totally lost and confused. Because, in my opinion, understanding the backstory and the dynamic between SpongeBob and Squidward, the way it was shown in Help Wanted, makes watching it way more enjoyable, though I still think it was a great episode nonetheless. It really lets us dive into the dynamics between SpongeBob and Squidward, since they're the only ones around. It's a fun look at their relationship. Even though SpongeBob is super annoying to Squidward, it's clear that Squidward isn't exactly innocent either. I mean, he kicked the shell over into SpongeBob's yard first. The episode is kind of a silent take on what goes around comes around. Squidward is left with not only a more messier yard, he is also left with the very thing he was trying to get rid of, the shell. Very poetic. I remember reading different reasons as to why the creators decided to do a silent episode. One being, as stated by Jay Lender in a series of tweets, it was intended to extend Help Wanted to a full half episode. They didn't go through with the dialogue because Screen Actors Guild rules mandated paying the voice actors fees for a second session, which would have cost $2,500 USD at the time of production in 1999, which is equal to $4,391.58 US dollars today, when in fact, Reef Blower was meant to have dialogue, just like the other episodes. Unfortunately, the studio had bad sound equipment at the time, so they decided to make the episode dialogue free, but Roger Bumpus did record Squidward's growling and gasping sounds, but the recording equipment broke before the dialogue could be recorded. So, no dialogue, only sound effects. exaggerated expressions, and slapstick antics. Even though this format is uncommon for a modern cartoon, which typically aims for rich dialogue and verbal jokes, it is still one of my favorites. It goes against the grain by relying solely on physical comedy, calling back to the slapstick style of silent film stars like Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton. I found the lack of dialogue intriguing. It compels you to focus more on SpongeBob's exaggerated actions and the episode's lively sound design. This absence of words lets the visuals do the storytelling, creating an unforgettable slapstick sequence. The short length was partly due to production constraints. The creator, Steven Hillenburg, needed a third segment for the pilot episode, which had a 22-minute slot to fill on Nickelodeon. Instead of stretching the runtime or creating additional scenes for the other two segments, Help Wanted and Tea at the Tree Dome, Hillenburg opted for a brief, standalone concept that fit neatly in the remaining time. I think the compact nature of the episode only added to its charm, embodying the simplicity and spontaneity of SpongeBob's character. I think it was a genius episode, and I know a lot of fans agree even now rewatching the episode. It may be short, but it's like a visual joke you'd see in a classic silent film. It works because it doesn't drag on. You get a laugh, and then it's done. I think it proves that SpongeBob doesn't need to talk to make you laugh. His expressions and actions do all the work. This emphasis on visual storytelling distinguishes SpongeBob from other animated shows where dialogue and plot complexity usually drive the humor. The sound effects do all the talking in Reef Blower. It's like the Reef Blowers communicating with SpongeBob, making it feel like a character in itself. Reef Blower turns something as simple as a blower into a comedic tool, giving the device a personality through sound. I think the choice to omit dialogue was artistic. Cartoons could capture this feeling through SpongeBob's everyday actions without needing words. It also works in a cartoon like SpongeBob because silent sequences are effective in underwater scenes because they underscore the surreal, dreamlike quality of life. Without dialogue, the episode gives a sense of SpongeBob's boundless energy to tasks that would usually go unnoticed in a regular episode. Interestingly, the lack of dialogue also allowed the episode to transcend language barriers. Since there's no spoken word, Reef Blower can be universally understood even by non-English speakers, helping SpongeBob become a global sensation. This episode represents the early experimentation of the show and serves as a testament to Hillenburg's willingness to break from traditional animation formulas. We do have to give props for its simplicity, since this episode showed us that SpongeBob's biggest battles are with himself and whatever random thing he's trying to clean. But let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. How did you feel when you saw this episode for the first time? And if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching. Until next time.